of India. As we all know, this conference is exploring various aspects of digital publishing in India and is covering three important aspects primarily, which is scalability, impact, and sustainability. We will deliberate on the impact ad revenues, subscription, content, and how technology is aiding the transformation. While the discussions will mostly cover the digital publishing aspect in India, there will be a special focus on Indic languages and the opportunities and challenges which are faced by the local language community. With that, let us now begin with our next session. This session is a panel discussion on the topic monetizing in cookieless world. And for the same, I would like to introduce to you our speakers, our moderator, Mr. Dikshant Joshi, Director, Publisher Development at AdPushup. Hi, Dikshant.
Hi, Garima. Thanks for
Hello.
the introduction.
Well, thank you so much. Mr. Jayen Mehta, Senior General Manager, Amul. Hello, sir.
Hello, Garima.
Mr. Prasad Shejale, Founder and CEO, Logicserve Digital. Hello, sir.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Hello, sir. And Mr. Samarth Sharma, CBO, Asianet News. Hi, Samarth.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you
Hi.
so much to everyone for joining today. And I would now request Dikshant to please take over.
Great. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining in today. And this is a really interesting topic given the news which has just come in yesterday about Google Chrome coming out with the news that the deadline for cookie demise has been extended from 2022 to about 2023, which roughly gives a grace period of about 2 years. So given this is in news, I would firstly like to hear from our panelists. What do you guys think about this aspect before we move into the impact on monetization?
I think
Prasad,
I take
would you-
this. Yeah. I think I will take about take that first, But I think before I get into that, and I think there are multiple aspects to it. One is from the consumer perspective, me as a consumer first. Then as a from the brand perspective, because I represent brand since I come from agency, and of course government and publisher. Okay, and the technology players which are there. There are 4 or 5 different players which are there. If you see, there was an interesting study that I was reading some time back, which was I think done by Accenture, wherein across some 5,000 odd people, consumer, they said that 87% of them really want to have some personalized experience or a personalized communication with them. At the same time, there was some another study by Telium which said that 97% of the people are either worried or somewhat worried or very much worried about how the data get used. 97. Okay, so just imagine there are two aspects to it. 87 want personalization and 97 are worried about the data. Okay, the data. So there is a lot of demand in terms of asking the whole ecosystem to have a safe internet, right? Okay, so it all said and done, it's coming. Okay, it is very relevant things to be having a internet safe world that way for us, all of us that way. Of course, it throws a lot of challenges to us. We have got this extra now 1.5 years. Of course, it is in 3 stages, which Google's blog, which they have written yesterday, it talks about, and it's a very, I mean, though we can rejoice saying that we have some extra 1 year there or 1.5 years, but I think loads of work needs to be done for all of us that way, right? So it's a breath of fresh thing for us, me to sort of, because it was otherwise too small time, but welcome to do that. But there's loads to work to do from all of us to make sure that the internet safe world is coming our way, and we have to be ready for it. And if you ask me, even that 2 years is too much work to be worked on. That's my first reaction to what we heard last evening.
Thank you for that, Prasad. Anything on the publisher side and the brand side, given I think we have a great panel here with the agencies as well as the publisher side as well as the brand side coming in together for this session. So does this change anything in terms of strategically or timelines? I know I'm asking a really tough question because it's been less than 12 hours since this news has come in, but happy to hear how this would impact your strategies in terms of timelines.
Thanks, Dikshant. Pleasure to be here. So I think from a publisher standpoint, right, it sort of comes down to something that we were already moving towards at a pace. It's not like it has just been thrown into our face suddenly that the third-party cookies will become non-existent on Chrome and others, because Safari and Firefox have been doing it since 2017, right? So having said that, it also sort of pushes us towards a model of monetization. I'm coming specifically to the monetization part. It also pushes us towards a model of monetization that we were already looking at from a strategic perspective, right? Which is to say that about the first party information that we have on our users, right? How well do we understand our users? What do we know about them? Using DMPs and other means, and actually investing in that thing to acquire information on a user, right? Now that is for multiple purposes. One is personalization, like Prasad mentioned, right? Customization of content. Like we have news, we have sports, we have politics, we have blah blah blah. I don't know which guy likes what at what point of time, right? So if I serve content in that way, so that is one direction we're already taking, right? Now with this information coming in, and for all it's now being pushed to a couple of years. There's still no definitive timeline, right? Instance like Politica that happened, or anything else that pops up in the macro scheme of things, can push the deadline back as well, closer to us than we think. So it's like that rear view mirror in your car, right? It's not as far as as you feel it is. Now, coming to the monetization side aspect of it, so first party acquisition, obviously it's an expensive process. The technology is being evolving on that. User IDs, individual identification, whichever way, emails and other formats. Right, and also a lot of publishers are anyways moving towards the subscription side of things. Right now we know it's not the easiest thing to do in India, but you see how NYT and Vox, right, particularly, they have built their own first party data information. Right, a lot of brands anyways are building. Right, so when I talk about the entire ecosystem of now targeting a user on to serve an ad, getting really on the ground here, I think both your performance marketing agencies, your brands, and whatever first party data is available with the publisher, I think they'll have to come together to pool in that information. And which technologies, trade desks of the world, and how they evolve, that will be seen in due course. Also, I'd also like to point out, we're talking about binary situations here. One is absolutely no data. The other is only first party data, right? There is something that lies in between, wherein you can form cohorts of information at a macro level about people, contextually targeting them. Okay, for instance, giving a very sort of laymanish example, like for instance, if I'm talking about somebody living in particularly at this particular address versus somebody living in a pin code, right? If I'm able to sort of aggregate behavior, which it still exists right now, right, and it doesn't breach up privacy or anything for which the purpose of the disbarring of third-party cookies exists. So if we can look at that middle of the road solution as well, instead of targeting a user's address and then targeting a pin code, because generally you may experience the same level of affluence in pin codes, and just giving as a hypothetical example. Now that also exists as a solution, right? And even though you may not get, there will be significant leakage in that thing, but will still be better than having to do without it. Because for me, as a business owner, I can tell you the first party acquisition will have to go through a very tough ROI filter, right? How do I monetize that kind of audience pool? It's all very well saying that you can acquire that information. Will I be losing users because of it? Obviously I will, right? Now how do I compensate for that? And then we get back to our conventional means of contextual advertising that we've been grown up and accustomed to as well. So yeah, I mean it's going to be evolving from this side. The ROI metrics become the most crucial things to check. But at the same time, this was something that we are always consciously moving towards. One of the solutions. Incidentally, it happens to be that we now have to move faster. We have to sort of look at it that way. Yeah.
Right. I like the spirit here, Samarth, that taking it more as a catalyst to speed in this, because I think there have been long conversations about first
Yeah.
party data publishing houses, but this just expedites that delay in terms of moving towards that. So I think that's a great spirit there, Samarth. Uh, Jayen, what about the brand side? What do you guys think? How does this impact your targeting, your budgets towards different publishers as well as different users across the World Wide Web?
Okay. Thanks, I and Dikshant for this session. I think it's a very important subject we are dealing, because end of the day, the entire discussion is around the hundreds of crores of rupees which is being spent on advertising in this very important medium. Uh, all of us are perhaps students of marketing, and one quote which I'm sure all of us know by heart is a very famous statement that half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. Half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half. Now, about 100 years back, somebody made this statement. It is still relevant today, but if somebody were to make, or the same John Wayne Wanamaker was to make this statement today, he would have said that, yes, I know the answer where it is being wasted, and let's hope digital advertising is not the answer he would give to it. Okay, so it's very important for us, because as digital grows in the field of advertising space in terms of media spends, nudging out television, print, and other media, one needs to be very, very serious about where this money is being spent. And as brands and everybody else, we need to be very cautious and careful of who is deciding on what is going to happen. Okay, here we see the decisions are being taken by these technology majors. Okay, so we're moving out of this realm of media into something which is much larger. And it is not just about data which we share as consumers. Like right now, say if I'm on a Times of India page, and I can see there are 21 cookies right now tracking me. Okay, so same applies to most of these. So these are the trackers which are there, and they have blocked right now has blocked 11 to 21 such trackers. Now everything that we do in this digital space is being tracked, and we are also as consumers leaving out lot of data, and this is being put up to use. And these tech measures do real-time consumer analysis with our internet data and influence our buying impulses. And it is not just influencing the buying impulse; it is influencing many other things also. So this is a good subject that we have taken up. I'm sure in the time to come ahead, we will debate on most of these points and try to come at a solution which is not only good for us as consumers, as brands, but also as citizens of our country. Because data which goes out has a lot of risk, because somebody manipulates us not only through media, but through many other tools. So that also we need to be careful as a subject, and cookies is the first starting point of all what is happening in terms of invading our privacy or influencing our minds.
Great, great. Thanks a lot for your thoughts. So moving on to the next section. So here the idea is that let's look at the impact of the demise of cookies on different aspects. So to begin with, let's look at, so there are different sections in it. So to begin with, how do you guys see that the impact of demise of cookie would be on contextual advertising? Would you say that it would grow, and the contextual advertising is going to be back in the ecosystem, given context has always been the king, and now more contextual advertising budgets may come in? Would you say that is going to happen, or would you say that contextual advertising would remain to be a hype? So, Prasad, would you like to go first?
No, actually, yeah, I can take that question, but I think when I'm so there are very interesting discussion also we had when Samarth talked about how the publishers are reacting to it, okay, wherein building the monetization from the subscription model part of it, right? And another part definitely is that the advertisers buying the inventory from the publishers, may it be direct inventory or a PG deals, or it could be a programmatic buys which happens depending on the audiences, is something which happens. And I'm quite sure that's a substantial monetization for the publishers, starting from the biggie ones to a smaller one. And as you rightly said, there are if I look from the brand's perspective, okay, what do we do? Okay, so what are we looking for? Okay, we are definitely looking for audiences. Okay, we are definitely looking for some sort of a personalization based on it. Okay, for example, on a ABC publisher, if you want to buy inventory. Okay, third one is definitely the measurements. Okay, what is a, even if it is an upper funnel one, I need to know whether a cost of influence of that is higher or not, apart from the reach, reach and frequency if I'm talking about. And definitely how do I do optimization. Okay, these are the four to five important things which are very much critical, okay, when we decide which inventory that we need to buy on, right? Okay, so when we are talking about contextual also, okay, if the considering, okay, there are three to four different technologies are coming in, including FLOC and unified IDs that we talked about to understand the consumer. Okay, as long as if these three things are not happening, it is becoming very difficult for us to decide what to do. Okay, I can't even control frequency, I don't even know which audiences are coming through, or I can't buy the audience based one. So that is my problem is, okay, whatever becomes great, it depends on whether you can give me audiences well, you can help me to measure well, if you can allow me to have the frequency well, or you can give me a have an optimization well. So all other are sort of becomes why do I say contextual? Because it seems I can prove statistically that this is better than something else, but if you take away the third party cookies and if we can't track it, then how do I scale it? Right, so that's what my problem is. Okay, so really need to look for some alternative or some way to say that this is working. If the publishers can prove that, okay, along with us, together, all of us, then something I can say it works, it doesn't work, it goes, it scales, it doesn't scale. So that is where I think I'm quite sure all of us are trying to figure it out. Every day something or the other comes up. Okay, almost every day morning I go and search ki aaj ka new news kya hai about third party cookies, and something else or there it's just coming. I'm actually keeping a log for last 6-7 months, starting from probably I would say all that January 2020 se leke whatever has been happening till yesterday evening.
Got it,
Yeah.
Prasad. Got it. So, Samarth, I think that's a direct question to the publishers as well. Like, how do we gain confidence of brands and agencies for them to spend budgets on, say, your property, right? So, how do you think that confidence can come back into the system?
See, like I mentioned, it's not like the third party cookies and the data that is being captured right now is going away, right? It's the access to it is being limited as of now, right? Now the large problem that we are always the privacy part, right? For the users, the data to stay within the country or any other reasons that we need to act on it. Now, I think how we are sort of planning is, and it's been a constant question, and it's not like even right now we don't face challenges with respect to this, because a lot of brands that line like Prasad mentioned earlier, between a branding and a performance marketing is constantly thinning, right? So we are anyways moving towards that part. Even if I'm doing a branding campaign, we're looking at car sales eventually that are happening from it, right? Or test drives happening, or the benchmarks get less right now, and eventually they will become absolutely to the T being followed. But at our end, we are conscious of how we are able to categorize our users. See, it just comes down to the basic, right? How well can you understand your user, right? If I can form an audience pool which can benefit, let's say, a category of customers, right? For instance, let's say the auto sector, for example, right, or FMCG, or that's still a very broad terminology. But if we can create audience segments and cohorts wherein we can have we can prove minimal leakage, right? Like Jayen sir mentioned, which we are able to identify that quarter which is being wasted. Let me twist it a bit instead of the half. So even if we are able to get to that level, right, then that is something that we are proving value at. If we are able to, let's say mention that, okay, this section of this audience pool that I have, you can target it for a two-wheeler, for instance, right? Just fresh out of college or whichever other behavioral attributes that I can have, right? So also it gets down to the level of the content that we are writing or producing, for that matter, right? Because we all know that videos is something, and that the most difficult audience, and the question that we keep facing is that guy who watches a video for 3 seconds, right? This is the thing that we keep hearing all the time. And there is one set of people who are watching a video for 3 seconds. Then there is another set which is spending 45 minutes in a day on a TikTok, for example, right? On your others, this thing. So video comes at the center of it now, even more, the prominence of, and then that we're getting into the contextual advertising or behavioral, and in that space, if we are able to sort of garner enough traction on the video side of it, right, then I think that could also become an interesting proposition on that, because that line between a video and TV, with the OTTs coming in, right, the price points at which they are being operated on, and in a TV, literally you're watching TV and you can click on an ad, right? That's what most of the OTTs which have sponsored content. So that thing needs to evolve from a publisher side as well. Something on the video side moving towards something that offers a display in terms of an ad to it, on the video plus display kind of a proposition, which is sort of the OTT of the world right now. Now, if we can sort of get into that space, and many are moving, and so are we, that will still provide more bang for the buck, rather than, even though it's not absolutely targeted, but the leakage or the wastage of money would reduce significantly, because the price points at what the publisher can operate will go down much more. That gives more leeway. So yeah, I mean, these 2-3 things are what we are looking at. It will get down to revisiting our content strategies as well, because this change, I mean, if not now, it will happen sooner than we think. So these are the areas that we are focusing on.
Got it. So, Jayen sir, as Amul, right? What kind of budget planning is now happening given the demise of the cookie, right? Are there any shifts that you're planning in terms of the digital marketing spends, or spending more on, say, print and other forms of advertising? Or are there any considerations there in terms of advertising budget, especially from a brand perspective? We are not able to hear you. You're on mute, maybe. Yeah.
It's a good question, but let me build a context to it. Times of India is 150 years old. Amul is 75 years old, and Google is 22 years old. Okay. Amul was among the first 5 brands in India to have a .com presence way back in 1995. So actually, we are all contemporaries as far as the media house like a Times of India is concerned, or a brand like ours is concerned. And we've been always champion of, so to say, first party cookies. In the sense, we build our own content and try to get audience base around that, so that we are not dependent on the external media houses as much as possible. Okay, having said that, we are among the top 10 advertisers in India also, and we are big into mass media advertising, be it television, print, outdoors, and also digital. But this is one space which has been continuously evolving. And we realize that if we are able to create content which is able to appeal to our consumers, it will be a better investment and a long-term property to build on, as compared to any other thing. Having said that, the long-term property part in terms of content is the Amul topical, which has been now last more than 55, 56 years. It's been going on. Almost every alternate day you see a topical which is brings on a top conversation. on what's happening, what's trending in the country, and that brings in a lot of audience connect to us. And with that comes a lot of information, a lot of feedback, and so on. So there are multiple such content buckets that we have created over the last 10, 20, 30 years, in which we are able to understand and influence the customers with minimal spends. I mean, mind you, we just spend 1% of our turnover on advertising, and our turnover as a brand last year was 53,000 crores. So that way, but all the spends that we do is consistent. All the properties that we build is consistent, and as a result of it, the context of communication that we do also is very consistent, and that's why the cost is also very, very low. And this is one medium which definitely gives us a much more leverage in terms of reaching out to a large number of people. In terms of talking about data points, I mean, we collect milk from 36 lakh farmers twice a day across 18, 20,000 villages, through selling our products a million outlets on a daily basis. And the entire thing is mapped on a location also. So we know exactly who's buying where, and there are close to 15 billion packs of Amul which are being sold in a year. And that is the velocity at which we have to amplify our reach and connect. And digital is a medium which definitely helps us as much as other mass medium tools like television, print, and radio and outdoors give us. So if with the changing times, we strengthen the first party cookie approach, and then work with publishers who have a similar kind of a robust base, it will really help us leverage our spends in a much better way, in a much more focused way, as compared to just spreading out the message thinly, as it has been happening so far.
Got it. And just to follow up there, is the focus more on that 1% within that budget? Is the focus more on performance marketing or brand building itself? What type of balance can we see there?
So if I were to talk about what we did in brand building, and that is where is the focus right now, rather than just measuring the costs on all, because the returns, if we do on content and brand building, the returns are infinite. And I'll talk about one social media experiment which we did last year, the Facebook Live recipe show, which we've been running on Facebook for the last almost 15 months. We've done about 2,600 sessions of 30 to 50 minutes each by about 3,300 chefs from more than 50 countries, and we have reached out to 170 crore people on Facebook and a large number on other social media handles also in 50 countries, and we have created about 1,15,000 minutes of original content and 225 million minutes of viewership. Okay, all this has come to us at zero cost, primarily because it was a compelling content which was connecting millions of people, and every day close to 10 million reach on social media has been continuously happening for last year and a quarter. Okay, so that way the content part becomes very important for us. And so, like I mentioned about the topical, which is giving us a lot of things, similar such kind of content, if we create and consistently do it, the results are very, very dramatic. So in that case, you are less dependent on the performance metrics tools, because on zero cost, whatever you get is an infinite return. Okay, so this is possible in this medium alone. If I go to Asianet and say, give me free advertising, he will ask me to take a walk. Okay, but when it comes here, the medium also accepts you and leverages and multiplies it. Okay, so that is where you are able to amplify the message at a very, very economical way.
Indeed inspiring, I would say. Jayen, thanks a lot for that. So Prasad, I think this is something which is close to your heart, and you may have great insights on this, which is how are you seeing the advertising budgets being split between bigger media houses and companies versus the small and medium publishers? Because that's something I think that has been evolving. Are there any signals or insights already in the market that we could take a pulse off from you?
That's a very interesting question. Very, very interesting question. Okay, so I assume this is yeah. So okay, fair enough. So so the thing is, if we so you said bigger versus smaller publishers. Okay, that's the question, right? And how things are moving, right? I will split it. I will add a few more dimensions on top of it, right? Okay. One of the dimension is definitely the industries, okay, or the categories, okay. How does the BFSI work? How does the FMCG work? How does the consumer durable, CPG, or even I would say the new age well-funded startups. Okay, so if I put that, okay, there'll be a bit of different things that you can see. Okay, if you see out of in case of BFSI sector, they were the first one who sort of moving most of their budget towards the digital one. Okay, and of course they since they could drive it someone to a landing page and could probably measure whether he converted or not, good amount of budget came to the to the lower funnel activities and more of a performance budget that we talked about. Okay, having said so, okay, both these players, okay, and again size does matter. Okay, so bigger players, if I go to a big player in BFSI who probably spends 70-80 crore as a budget on performance itself, okay, their asks are very different than someone probably a bit of smaller one, the way you look at it. Okay, because first, if the budget is there, you will always try to put it into a lower funnel one and then try to get it up again, depending on what is it that you want to build. Okay, there are a lot of ifs and buts. I'll come back to the question. Okay, now the thing is, as of now, okay, me as a planner, if I wear the cap of the planner, okay, I've seen a lot of smaller players who have if they have a good audience set, okay, it converts better. Okay, I know that, right? Okay, I can even if there are two things. There is, if it's a branding budget, then I'm looking for a, let's say, reach. If it's a performance budget, then I'm looking for a conversion. And as we were saying, post COVID, the line between these two are all merged now. Okay, it's like really okay. It's very it's very it is coming together, which is also good. We all along the my agency life, I kept saying that it has to happen, and suddenly post COVID, or rather during the COVID, it started sort of merging that way, right? To answer your question, as of now, in this country, if I'm looking for scale, then of course the big publishers. Okay, but there are always experimental budgets for smaller ones, and they do really good. Okay, only problem is they can't scale, so sometimes it becomes very difficult to put them onto the media plan. Okay, if it's a small one. But I think the smaller publishers also have realized this, and they probably, the types of pitches that they have is a lot around the audiences that they do, okay, and probably the format they are willing to do, okay. So that always gives a lot of innovations which comes, okay, because they also have to prove, right? Okay, so audiences, innovations. So I always sort of try to experiment with them. Some of them become good, okay, experimentation happens well, they scale a lot. We have seen that happening too. Now what would happen, in next 2 years or 1.5 years, what happens to these guys? Okay, and we were talking about that also, right? Because we really, if you can't show me audiences well, if you can't show me how it is converting well, you can't show me how it can be optimized, then the questions will start get asked. And will it become a big guy taking all of it? I don't know. Okay, but that is where I think my question again to all of you, or all of us will be, is that what sort of solutions will be there so that we can go back to the brands and that it is converting better, right? I can show you that measurement result. So we talked about FLOC takes care of a bit of FLOC takes care of a bit of audience part of it, okay, for sure, right? Okay, does it take care of remarketing? It doesn't, right? Of course, it is too early. Sorry if anyone is from Google here. It's an evolving technology. There are 3 stages in which they are going to roll out this, which I liked it. Okay, and the first one is going to be, as they said, first one is going to be the discussion. Second one is going to be, I think, testing, and the third one is about ready for adoption. Okay, that's what, as far as I remember, yesterday evening, they talked about that. But are there going to be any identity graphs or some unique identifiers which are coming up there? Okay, which can help for us to understand, the smaller publishers are converting better. So that's a question. But I would always love to work with this unique good publishers who could prove that they are satisfying some of the important parameters that brands are looking for. If it is unique reach, relevant reach, conversions, and so on and so forth. Okay, and that is my question always is, okay, when the third party cookie is completely dies down, how will they be able to prove? In turn, how will we able to select them? In turn, how will I be able to sort of convince our brand saying that this converts well? So my problem is that okay, they will find it very difficult to monetize, and if they can't monetize, they can't sort of invest it back to grow. It's a money game also, right? The more money that you earn, the better or content that you can create, more reach you can have, the bigger you become. It's unfortunately or whatever it is, it's a game of the bigger guy takes it all, you know that's how it is, right? Yeah. So that's another, I think, aspects of it. Will this sort of decimate some of the smaller players, right? Interesting question, but I don't have a very solid answer to it. I would love to have smaller publishers, working with them and helping them grow, so that overall ecosystem becomes very, very strong. Monopolies, duopolies, they're not good for anyone. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Thank you for that. And I think, Samarth, to build on that itself, how do you as a publisher stand out for your audience? I know that there is first-party data coming in, but how do you stand
Yeah,
out
yeah.
both in terms of audiences and performance? Because that's clearly what the brands and the agencies would always be looking for.
No, absolutely. Also just to give some context, so I've currently with Asianet, obviously, we are a legacy brand and everything, 25-year-old group and all that. Prior to this, I was with a smaller, relatively much smaller publisher, which was Sportskeeda, where I was a co-founder and business head. Now, having seen both sides of, as a smaller publisher in a niche segment like, Prasad mentioned, as well as a mass marketing, this thing, Asianet in 7 languages, having the TV muscle and all of that to go with print and radio and the entire group. How we are sort of approaching things, right? We're doing certain things. And this is sort of slightly digressing from the third-party cookie topic, but I think what we're doing here is getting more of integrated solutions to our advertisers and agency partners, right? We partnered with, I think, close to about 8, 9 different brands, as, I mean, really prominent ones, some of them like the Pidilite Group, all their brands and others, wherein we are getting our TV as well as our digital pieces together and sort of creating a plan which generates that ROI, which eventually see why we are going for the performance marketing is the kind of ROIs that we're expecting from it, right? It's not like that branding part is going out completely, right? If we can merge the two and the overall proposition becomes fruitful from a publisher standpoint, from Asianet, from a big publisher standpoint, and that is a strategy we are taking up as well. It is being very wholeheartedly being welcomed by our brand partners. Frankly, we have already hit the market with it, and what we've also realized is at our end. In fact, generally as the audiences, the internet audiences, right, evolving, as the past 5 years, looking at say 18 to 24 is the area, right? That's the term we keep listening to all the time. That they are the guys whom to be targeted and all of that for a lot of brands, obviously not for all. But that guy who was 18 to 24 about 10 years ago is now 28 to 34, right? And it's not like, and at the same time, what is happening? You have your Gen Zs coming up, who are probably 10, 15-year-olds, who have access to mobile phones, and your line between the influencer and, I mean, how do I put it? So the line between an audience and a content creator is getting thinner by the day. You see the reels, you see the TikToks, everybody, people from different strata of the social fabric that we have are becoming content creators, right? So that the traditional journalism, being the content creator, is definitely vanishing away. I do not have to rely on one particular star editor to wait for his editorial to get my view and share there. So that these from these perspectives, right? Coming back to the point about smaller and bigger publishers, the content strategy is also evolving, and the selling strategy is evolving for both small and big alike, right? So, for instance, let me give you a background. In Sportskida, we were largely dependent on UGC for our content, right? Sports fans like you and me, anybody who's a fan of sports and wants to write, there didn't exist a place where you could write and put out your views. Obviously, there's an editorial, plagiarism, blah blah blah, and all of that goes in to the process. But that model works well because I don't really need to listen to an on-the-ground journalist so much especially on something that is dependent on live happening, right? Which is sports. So either I can watch it on TV, but if I have to get my opinions, everybody is an expert in that, right? So that thing was being tapped there. Now the similar models are being adopted by bigger publishers as well. Also, that there is some flexibility on spending or reduced ROIs when trying out subscription models for the bigger publishers. It's not to say that the niche ones cannot have the paywall. Probably they can have a better one in terms of an ROI, but can they scale to that much, right? Without significant cash being pumped into the system. So I think for both the smaller publishers and the bigger groups, because you see the top 4, 5, or 10 ranked digital publishers either have a print or a TV to go with, right? So this clubbing, there are very few necessarily in the top 10. We do not have either of them, right? So there has to be reason. Obviously, the brand legacies and all of that, and these things come about. And I'm not talking about aggregators here, just the pure and play publishers. So I think combining that for this thing and going to the niche audiences and more UGC content from the other publishers, I think would be the way to go as far as this is concerned. So
great, great. Thank you for that. So quickly moving on to the next section here, which is a few questions have come in from the audience, and the first question goes out with the phase out of third-party cookies. Will micro-targeting remain feasible? So I think that's a question. Prasad or Jayen, you could take it up.
I can take that for sure. Okay, so I think the thing is, it is as you can see every day, so many things are changing. But if you today looking at whatever in the understanding that I have and information that we have, and where we are, if you have to really answer that question in yes or no, then the answer is a big yes. A big yes. As of today, I'm saying tomorrow there will be some news item which will come up. I don't know, but as of now, at this moment, 12:23, okay, I would say yes. Micro targeting is definitely going to get affected for sure. That is where we are talking about cohorts. Even FLOC, if you read about it detailed, okay, it's about the cohorts that are broader cohorts. Okay, but it is still hexadecimal number or whichever number. So you'll have still have sort of a predefined way of doing things. Okay, so that's one. Another one is even in terms of how do you, of course, if you remain in a particular ecosystem and if you build your own retargeting, a lot of stuff which are coming up. If you build your own in that ecosystem, if you build very specific audiences, okay, and probabilistic as well as deterministic, whichever way you talk about, and of course server side tagging, which people are talking about now also, someone again had talked about it, then it is still possible. Okay, but micro targeting from third party ecosystem is definitely compromised, and that is where the beauty lies from how brands will move things from third party to first party, remain in the ecosystem, and then micro target. Okay, so as of today, third party micro targeting will get definitely affected. There's no doubt about it.
Great.
Okay, I just take on what Prasad had mentioned in the first part, earlier part of the discussion about the big getting bigger and trying to dictate. I mean, many of you have been in media for a long time and would have seen there was a Doordarshan rate card in the 90s where they used to decide what's going to happen. India Today used to keep ads in the waiting list. Times of India, I don't know how many of you remember, had a mastermind of a media plan and a rate card, which it was the Bible of the industry. Okay, and today Google is telling us what we need to be doing. Okay, point here is as times change, things change. The Dadagiri of the big ones also change, if I may use that word. But the point here is we should be very clear from one point of view that India is now the largest consumer and creator of data in the world. Okay, so whatever policies related to data we do, has to be more of India centric rather than somebody outsider coming and calling shots. And it's the responsibility of the media houses, it's the responsibility of the policymakers, and obviously responsibility of all of us as citizens to ensure that our data is not being used or misused in whatever form. I mean, brand advertising is normal and a simple way of using that information. There is many other way of using or distorting that information and manipulating our behaviors also. Okay. Having said that, the second part, the micro targeting part, is actually very, very relevant for most of the brands now. I mean, I talked about Amul shops, Amul parlors, a million outlets, and so on and so forth, and trying to reach out and connect to the pack, each single SKU that we sell to the customers staying in vicinity of that particular thing. So the communication tools are definitely changing and evolving. The dynamic content optimization is also happening, and micro targeting also is happening. In the changing scenario, how we are able to do that is a learning we'll have to create and build into our systems, possibly using many other tools available. Like if a parlor has 500 to 1000 regular customers, if we are able to connect those customers, have an app-based selling tools, and at least have a critical mass of 1000 customers in vicinity of every single outlet that we have, it will make us less dependent on the media part of the communication, and it will help us easily reaching out to directly to the customers through our own tools as well as our own content that we make.
See, I think Jayen is giving anyway from a brand side. Okay, the importance of publishers seem to be coming down. He's building already. His brain is building on first-party cookies and having control over their own data. Just and at the core of the
no, I think with all the numbers that they said, yeah, I think with all the numbers that Jayen quoted, and they're a bigger publisher than many publishers around, right? With their Facebook Live.
So I know it's very interesting.
Themselves.
Samarth, yesterday I was talking to someone and he said that, how brands have started becoming publishers themselves in a way, not from the monetization perspective, because the consumer wants to have a lot of information from the brands. So they have to wear the hat of the publisher, okay, to reach out instead of depending on the intermediaries there. So that is where I think, Jayen, thank you very much. It reconfirms how the brands are thinking, right? Good.
Great. So with that, any closing thoughts that you guys have for this topic, for the brands here and the agencies here, more on the lines of how do you continue to sustain conversions for your brand as well as agency, whereas for the publishing side, how do you continue profitability while the cookie goes away? So any closing thoughts on that from anyone?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great ride. Okay, different ride. Okay, we have to be continuously keep in touch with what's happening and be ready. I would say. Okay, whether I am an agency or a brand or a publisher or a tech player or a DMP player or a data seller player or whoever it is. It's next to 1.5-2 years is going to be a lot of changes that way. So yesterday I was again talking about the whole anti-fragile thing. How these systems that we can use to become more stronger in next 1.5 years. Okay, sitting just because now something has moved ahead for a year or something like that. It's a time for us to actually build onto it. Okay, depending on whoever you are. So that's something that I would sort of really expect all of us to be aware of. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you for that, Prasad. And anything from Jayen or Samarth? We are just about to hit the scheduled time for this, so 30 seconds each would be really appreciated.
Jayen sir, please go ahead.
So Prasad has summed it up well. I think this is one subject we need to continuously track. And let me tell you, selling butter cookie and chocolate cookie is much easier than doing this. Thank you so much.
Great.
Exactly. Even from our side, I think there are other parties on cookies that we're more interested in right now. Having my point being that from an ROI standpoint, right, be it first party data or any other ways of monetization for publishers, those were anyways going to be focused, and now they've been just pushed a bit more. That we need to think on. So yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot for the closing thoughts here. Over to you, Garima. Thanks a lot for IMI for hosting us and for this really interesting topic, which got even more interesting with yesterday's news. So thanks a lot, everyone, for tuning in. Over to you, Garima.
Thank you, Dikshant, and thank you to all our panelists for being a part of this session. It was like a very interactive session with the audience sending in questions and very relevant, like you said, with yesterday's news. So thank you once again for joining in today. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our knowledge partner, Kantar. And we will be joining in for another exciting session very shortly. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Dikshant. Thanks, Prasad. Thanks, Darshan.
Thank you. Thank you, Jayen.